Hey everyone, this is Britton here again. Thank you guys for joining me. If you're here, please leave a comment in the live. It's always nice when I can see people are actually watching. It's a little easier. I know a lot of you guys say these things are in different time zones and you watch them later, and that's great too. I want to welcome all the new members. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're excited about the movement. Hopefully it's because you've read the books. If you haven't read the books, you're just here for information, that's great. We have a whole bunch of videos. I guess I can wave to people. I'm going to try that. We have a whole bunch of videos below. I recommend you watch those. There's some good information there. And we post videos usually twice a week on Wednesday and Friday. What we're talking about in these videos is what I call the Art of Raising Children for Greatness movement. That movement is part of a 5-series books, a series of 5 books. The first book was Revealing School. I'm the author of this book. And then we have 4 more coming. This one is actually out. Sorry, this is Education. This is the one everybody's kind of excited about right now. This is what most people are reading. And when we talk about raising children for greatness, this is mostly what we're talking about. This is the book on education. And then we have a character one coming out later this summer. Hopefully, as long as I live that long. And we have another one coming out. These books are written, by the way, and we're editing them, and that'll be on, right now it's called The Noble Way. I don't know if that'll be the final title. And then we'll have the last book, that will be The Enemy, which will be really interesting, and I'm not done writing that one. So, today we're talking about raising kids for greatness. I actually had something planned, and then I saw there were some questions. One is, I think it's from Frida. Frida, if you're watching, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it. If it's wrong, just let me know. But Frida asked a question. She asked about friends. We've talked about friends in this book. The second book in this chapter, or the second chapter in this book, is called Neverland. And it is probably the most controversial chapter in the book. But in Neverland, we talk about how there was a movement that really started in the last 100 years, but especially the last, let's say, like 60 years. And it was a movement that kind of glorified childhood, and there was something magical about childhood. And they started promoting to parents that you want to extend childhood, and don't rush your kids to grow up. And there was a jingle by Toys R Us. You probably remember that. I think Toys R Us is about gone, if they're not gone. But they used to play it all the time when I was a kid, saw it on all the commercials, and it's, I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. And that became like the mantra for parenting. It became the mantra for education. This idea that it was kind of cute. The kids didn't want to grow up. And the best way to do that was to give them a bunch of toys. And it's just kind of cute and it's creative. And then they started trying to market it that it was actually educational, that kids learn best through play. And a lot of people, without thinking, they just kind of repeat that. And anyway, so I talk about that in the book. And that was very different. That was controversial. A lot of people said the same thing. You just want to let them be kids. My kids have a great childhood. The purpose of childhood is to prepare yourself to be an adult. We have baby goats and they play with each other. They butt heads and stuff. They're not actually playing. I mean, they're preparing themselves to be a ram, to defend themselves when they go out into the wild. So it's cute that they're playing, but really they're preparing themselves for the real world. Back in the day, kids used to have toy swords. That was a weapon of the day. You couldn't give them a metal sword, just like a gun or something. You can't give your kids guns to shoot each other. You couldn't give your kids a real sword. They'd cut each other to pieces, but they needed the skill of swordsmanship. And so to defend themselves and their family, so we'd give them plastic, toy swords, and they would actually do combat. It wasn't just about play. It was actually preparing themselves for the real world. And that's what kids want. Kids are excited. They want to join you in the kitchen. They want to follow you out and do work and meaningful stuff. But we are always giving them toys. So I didn't mean to get into all that, but that is in the book. I make a better case in the book. I highly recommend you read it. It's really important. But Frida asked a question about toys, and she asked a question about friends. I talk about both of those in the book. We're going to start with her question on friends. How much time should for your kids be playing with friends? Most parents think that, friends are a rite of passage. It's a child's right to pick their friends. It's a child's right once they finish their schoolwork, because the schools have drilled it in that schoolwork comes first. You've done your chores, you finished now it's your time, your free time. You can do whatever you want with it. You can go play video games. You can, we want them to go play outside and then go play with your friends. And that's kind of that mantra of childhood, that it's really just about kind of fun, entertainment, and then, education, a little bit of schooling. So I want to address that. When I was growing up, all of the bad influences, all of the trouble I ever got into was because I was out with my friends. and I got to pick my own friends. And I mean, that's the truth. When I was out with my grandparents or when I was out with adults and stuff, I never really got into trouble. But when I got with my peers, it tends to be, it's like everything devolves to the least common denominator. I got into fights. I was bullied. I bullied. It was the first time I tried drugs. I got into, some inappropriate relationships. I was introduced pornography. I was watching inappropriate movies, crude jokes. I mean, just every bad thing that I was exposed to was generally with my friends. And most parents think, okay, we can't even monitor anymore because most people put their kids in a public school system. They don't know who their kids are associating with. Your kid might become best friends with a Satanist at school because they both like, I don't know, magic cards or something. And then we as parents think, well, that's their friends and there's nothing we can do. I don't have that philosophy. I feel like some friends, first of all, I feel like even good friends, peers, should be limited. I think that kids offer very little. So if my daughter's 8 years old and she goes and plays with another 8-year-old, it might be fun for them. That's an entertainment time. But what can that 8-year-old really offer my daughter except for, I don't know, fun, I guess, play and stuff like that. And it's fun to have peers, but what does she really offer? I'd rather my kids hang out with grandma. Grandma can teach them about cooking and share stories that kind of go along with our family and our culture. They can cook together. They can have that sense of family, that bond where your kids' friends, they don't have that permanent relationship. They often will move off and stuff like that. But grandma's never going to introduce your kids to pornography, hopefully. Never going to introduce them to drugs and stuff like that. So it's a positive relationship. When my kids hang out with grandma, they learn to talk respectfully. They learn to talk and think like an adult. I like that. When kids go out and run by themselves, it's the lowest common denominator. It always results in potty language and crude jokes and fighting because there's their peers. There's no authority and hierarchy, which I'll talk about later in other books. But that's important. With grandma, we know who's in charge, and your children are looking up to her behavior and modeling it. When it's a neighbor kid, there's nothing to model. It's just a peer their own age, and it devolves. So I talk about that better in the book and in future books to come. I deal with that a whole lot more. But I just want to answer Frida's question on, okay, what is the solution? What do I recommend? Okay, I recommend that kids have access to their friends in the same way. Oh, here we go. Our family is worth more than friends. They would introduce these things, but I agree with the peer part. Okay, so here's my philosophy on friends. 1, friends should be limited to weekends and holidays at the most. Definitely holidays. It's like entertainment. It's fun. That's how often I see my friends. I get along fine. Most of my time should be involved with relationships with my family, with my wife, with my kids. I don't go hang out with my own friends on the weekend all the time, but we see them sometimes on holidays and special occasions. And so I would say that's a first good rule of thumb. Secondly, most of my friends, and we'll talk about this. The other principle is we try to do family friends. Like we have a good friend. I'm friends with him, with the dad. And I'm kind of friends with the mom. She probably doesn't think so, but I am her friend. And my wife is friends with her mom. And I used to teach Sunday school to their kids, so I know their family's values, and I like these kids. And my daughter plays with them, plays with these kids. Those are friends. So when we get together for friends, like let's say it's a holiday or it's a Memorial Day and we go camping, a lot of times we'll go together as a family. So we're all friends. It's family friends. I hang out with the dad and my kids hang out with their kids, and so we actually keep the family together, which is important. And I'm actually able to monitor stuff. So if there's an inappropriate show going on, which we have different, I wouldn't say inappropriate, but we have different standards, our families, and so I'm able to actually say, oh no, that's not appropriate for my kids because I'm right there with them. So we do kind of like family friend time, which I feel like is good. That's one thing. As far as day-to-day kids coming over and play, we have great neighbors. I live right next to a summer camp, a children's Christian summer camp. I actually used to go to Bible study with the director, and then the other guy who's like an assistant director who lives right across from our property too. He's our preacher now from part-time, and then he's the full-time youth pastor, and he has great kids. So I actually like them, but I still don't want my kids going out and playing all the time because during the week we focus on our family, we have chores, we have responsibilities, we have our goals that we're working on. And so that's what I've limited my kids to during the week. But on Saturday, they're allowed to play with their friends if they finish their chores and stuff. And these are friends. These aren't any friends, any neighbor kids. These are friends with at least the parents, and I think the kids have similar values. And it's also that they don't go off and play all day out of sight. I mean, we monitor that. Even then, we monitor at play. So what about homeschool social groups? Okay. Yeah, so we are involved in some homeschool co-op groups. We go every once in a while. Again, we are there as the parents. We don't just drop them off and we monitor it. I'm not even a big fan of youth group, and I'll talk about that. I think that's in the next book. But I'm not a big fan of youth group. I know the youth pastor, and it's a very small town, so I let my kids go. They don't do the overnight stuff. Youth group ended up being, for me, in a period of my life, a really bad place. It was where all the bad Christian kids could get together and do whatever the heck they wanted, because the parents were like, oh, they're at church, this is great. There was no oversight, because we just assume, oh, they're learning about God, they're having a good time. We used to have overnight sleepovers and stuff in the church, and eventually this youth pastor we had, he was a super nice guy, but he'd fall asleep, and everything it got crazy. I mean, it used to be the hangout. Kids who had no interest in going would come into the church and bring drugs and tobacco, and all sorts of stuff would happen. And this poor youth pastor, he's like, man, I'm growing my program. How wonderful. And the whole church was like, he's having such success, bringing all those wayward kids into the church. And really it was because the blinders run, everybody it was crazy. There was no oversight, and it was a huge church, and we could get away with murder. And that it ended up becoming a very bad place. So I'm not a huge fan of peers. I like some of my daughter's best friends. It was funny. She had a birthday party a while back, and she's like, well, can Aunt this and this come, and Grandma and Grandpa? And so like that is who she thinks of as her good close friends. And then she got down the list and was like, and these and these and these people were some of her peers. But some of the first people on her list were her aunts and stuff, because she has a great relationship with them. And I love that, because the aunts are going to be positive peers. So it doesn't have to be kids their own age. I really am very leery about kids their own age and their peer group. So I talk a lot more about that in the later books on character development. I know that is going to blow people's mind. That seems crazy to a lot of people, very extreme. We do it, it works. We have a lot less drama. We haven't had to deal with some of these major issues like pornography, smartphones. We had a neighbor girl when we lived in a bigger town. It was bad. I mean, in my opinion, it's like an R-rated movie. It's an R-rated friend. And she meant well. She came from a really bad home, and I wish we could have impacted her more. But I'm not going to sacrifice my kids either. And this girl was looking up horrible videos and stuff. There's a song, I'm a Barbie Girl. That's my generation. I think that came out when I was in middle school or something. But you can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. And so these are young. This is a young girl, unmonitored. She thinks it's a song about Barbie dolls. It's cute. My daughter's like, oh, that's cute. It's a Barbie doll song. They don't realize what it's really about. And it just shocked me. It's like, what is my kid singing and looking at? And that was from a friend. I really like try to keep friends arm distance. Peers, I should say, not friends. Okay, the other thing, collaborations. Collaborations are great. Like I said, we have some friends that we've kind of handpicked for our kids. And we didn't you have to be friends with this person, but we just introduced them and they got to start hanging out and we're family friends. And so they develop relationships. And my daughter, it's really cool. My daughter does collaborations with them. So it's kind of focused on what her goals already are. So she wants to be an author. She wants to be an artist. So she's developed these collaborations. We live out in the country, but she does it through, I guess it's through Facebook Live or Zoom or something. They chat. They made challenges, and they have a YouTube channel sometimes, and they post their challenges. And it's actually been really cool. Like my daughter, they did a schedule challenge. We had trouble getting my oldest daughter up. She's the one that's always a little bit tougher, but it was amazing. She came up with this on her own. She challenged her friends to a schedule challenge. And they set a schedule, and then they would film themselves doing it, keeping the schedule. And then at the end, whoever kept the schedule the longest won a candy prize or something. And it was really cool. She was waking up on time. She was doing her schoolwork at this time and reading and meeting all of her goals and stuff. And this is with her friends. It was a peer group that was encouraging what we want. So it was like perfect. And then this month, their challenge is a drawing challenge. They have to draw a character or something, a word out of a bucket. And then they draw that character for an art challenge. And they do one of those every day. And they're seeing who can do it the longest and the best. So that's great. Like, that's the kind of peers that we want. That's the kind of relationship we want with their peers. It's not all about entertainment. She's focused on her life goals and she's including people in that. Eventually, her friends are probably going to check out because they're going to get tired of these challenges. And my daughter's like really hard on them all the time. Like, you need to, and so that'll probably wear off. But the friends are supporting the general mission that we have. And if they become an obstacle, they'll go away. Because ultimately, if family comes first and our goals, our mission in life comes first, And we're not going to let friends become a stumbling block. We don't need that in their lives. They're still developing who they are, and we don't want a negative influence. Friends become so powerful at a certain age that if you just have to cut them off. It's just like video games. It becomes addicting. It becomes a powerful influence. You can limit it, and your kid will keep fussing and thinking about it and dwelling over it. It's just time to cut it off. And we might have to do that with friends at some point. But right now, it's working. Okay, and I think you have a right to that. A lot of parents think, oh, I have no right, or somewhere they've gotten this idea that they don't have a right to step in and say that. And I'm the parent. At the end of the day, it's done. And I've hurt some little kids' feelings, say, hey, they can't play till Saturday if they get their chores done. And they're always disappointed they go over. I don't care. Ultimately, we're living our life, and we have a different family schedule. It's not going to revolve around the neighbor kid's schedule, and then they have a schedule for their family. And if they need to set limits when my kids go over, send them back. That's okay. You're the parent. You can pick your kids' friends, and then be a leader. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions. We've already decided we don't do sleepovers. Not with anybody's kids. And that's because a lot of bad things happen at sleepovers. The parents can be great. The parents go to bed. There's nobody monitoring. And that's when kids get on. And that's when I got introduced to a lot of pornography and stuff. As a young kid, like 5th, 6th grade, was going over, sleep over the neighbor kid's house. Seemed like a great kid, great parents. And they'd fall asleep. And a lot of rated R movies. We'd flip it on, watch it at night. And got exposed to a lot of bad things at sleepovers. So we don't do that. And then there's other reasons. My kids don't like it. But that's sad. They go to a summer camp. It's right next door. We know the director. It's adjacent to our property. It used to actually be my great grandfather's property and stuff. It's horrible. But my daughter, she goes to summer camp, but she doesn't spend the night there. And it's just hard. She comes home and sleeps here and has to go out. And it made her an outsider one year and stuff. But that's just how we protect our family. And I'm the parent, and that's it. That's my rule. I don't have to take a poll. Not everybody has to agree with it. That's what we're doing for our kids. Okay, what about Christian friends? Yeah, I mean, Christian friends, it's tough with Christian friends. I like Christian friends. I was a Christian friend at one point, and I had Christian friends. And I've never walked away from my faith. I've always had that. But I definitely wasn't living it at some points in my life, and I was a bad influence. So just because the parents are great and the parents have strong faith, a lot of kids grow up with that. I went to a Christian school my whole life, and I'm telling you, there are a lot of great parents, good Christian parents that have really bad kids. And just in general, peers devolve. I think the behavior devolves. So we don't like those peer groups. We try to keep them, and I'll talk about more in other books, but we try to keep them away from age-segregated play, especially large groups and stuff. So I asked my son tonight what he missed most since having stayed at home school. He didn't seem to notice any difference. That's interesting. Okay, so your kids are in school. Yeah, I guess I forget sometimes too that we probably have public schoolers and private schoolers and stuff. And in my history, I've been to public school. I went to private school, so I've been around a lot of other Christian kids and or Christian. The parents are Christian. It doesn't mean that the kids are, and so I'd be cautious of that. And anybody can put on a smiley face, and maybe they go to church because the parents do. It doesn't mean that they're living it, and it doesn't mean that they're good influences. So. Okay, so that's the first part. And these always end up being so long. I hope you like these. My wife's like, they're too long. People just check out. Okay, so next one, toys. That was most controversial. We cut our kids off of toys after 7 years old. It's a rite of passage. They don't cry. It's not this huge thing. They're actually excited to move on to young adulthood, and they give up their toys at 7 years old. This doesn't mean they can never play with toys or they're forbidden, but they give up most of their toys. That's how we see it. I've already kind of covered the usefulness of toys. I feel like toys are a distraction. They keep kids young. I talk about that in my book. Kids don't want, a girl doesn't want a plastic doll. She wants a little baby to take care of. I have 2 daughters. My oldest daughter played with dolls. She had no younger siblings at the time, or she was too young when we couldn't let her babysit her little sister because she was so young. But she went out of the doll phase. And then my second daughter never went into the doll phase because she was old enough at the time to have little brothers and sisters. And when she was in the doll phase, she took care of her little brothers and sisters. She wanted to hold them and she wanted to feed them and stuff. So that's really what kids want. They want to be adults. My little boy, I wrote about this in the book. It just dawned on me. He wanted tools. He still loves tools. He wants to buy tools with his money. But we thought, oh, that's cute. We'll get him a little plastic tool set. And he got one for Christmas. And he was just appalled, so disappointed. My tools don't work. He tried to hammer some plastic nails and broke the thing. And then he took his plastic saw and tried to saw some wood, and it just split the seam in the plastic. And so he was like super bummed. And so it just occurred to me, like, he doesn't want toys, he wants tools. So actually, I don't think it was me, I think it was his aunt, but for the next birthday we put that out there. We don't want any more plastic junk, anything. We get him some real tools. She got him a little tool set. He uses it. He builds stuff with it. Here we go. I already showed you guys this last week. He built this for his little brother. This is a toy, actually. It's a robot. And it's just some nails and stuff, but he used his tools for that. It's not fancy, but they enjoy playing with it. This is arms, that's the head. Okay, it's a robot head. So I'm gonna get to the Legos. Yeah, I'm coming to the Legos. So he wants real tools. That's what kids really want. They actually don't want toys. That's why kids are so quickly bored with toys. They play with them for a few days. The toys accomplish nothing. It's just another form of entertainment. But kids actually want to accomplish things. They want to build things. They want to achieve things. And that's why video games are so bad. But I'll get into that some other day. Okay, so that's on toys. Now, Legos are toys. We had a huge debate on this. I grew up with Legos. I love Legos. And as soon as my daughter was old enough, we started stacking our house full of Legos everywhere. Had the bins of Legos. And I used to tell myself, oh, it's creative and they're building. And I think there's like an element of that. Legos are tough. I love Legos, but here's what we did. We have the big Lego blocks for the Duplo toys for the young kids under 5, and they love to build with them. And sometimes the older ones do too. But we got rid of the rest of the Legos. Legos are super expensive. It's $100 for some of those cool sets. And I was like, I'll just take that $100 and buy my kids real tools. I'll buy them wood sets. They can build something with wood and learn how to use tools. And my boy's really into a chisel set right now. So I'll probably get him his next birthday a chisel set, and he can start chiseling wood. He's carving me all sorts of stuff all the time. It's not amazing, but that's real. That's building something. We don't build houses out of Legos. It comes with instructions. I don't know. I guess it promotes creativity. I don't know. I don't do that. My kids go out and they build stick forts. They build stuff with sticks and stuff. That's creative too. It doesn't cost me anything. And yeah, and that's honestly, that's it. I mean, Legos were hell. Legos were everywhere, especially with the younger kids and the little Legos. Just everywhere in the yard. Expensive Legos everywhere. I'm like, this is crazy. Every day I'm fighting, clean it up, and I realized like I did that to them. I'm on the bottom of all these crazy sets, and they're everywhere. And they could never keep their rooms clean, and their lives are sad and miserable because I did that to them. I bought them all these Legos because I thought that's a normal thing for childhood. I stuffed their room full of all these toys, and then I was mad at them for they couldn't keep it clean. And then I went in there one day and I was going to show them how to do it. And I was like, well, there's actually not enough room in this room to store all these toys. It's not possible. I think I talk about that more later in the book, but we did. We purged the toys, and do my kids miss it? No. They read more. They write more. They write. My daughter writes letters to a lady she met in the church. It's 80 years old. She loves to write letters to this lady. That's great. That's one of her best friends is Beulah. And Beulah's 80-something. And they're great friends. And they talk about chickens and cooking. And it's a great relationship. So that's what my kids do now. They don't play Legos all day in the room. We hate Barbies. I did the Barbie thing for a while. Same thing. Barbies are junk. I want my kids to live in the real world. I don't want them in their room playing with little toys all day. I want them to come out and interact with us, interact with real people. I actually think you learn more from dealing with real people than staging little Barbie things. And I think you learn more from building. And that's what I talk about in the book. We say kids learn from play, maybe, but they learn more by doing, through work, through real things in the real world, instead of this kind of secondary archetype, which the toy industry has really pounded into us, and they've made billions of dollars on toys in entertainment. But childhood is about more than that. Okay, so I don't want to get into that. I mean, I'll write the whole book again, telling you, and I'm a rambler. So just read the book. I highly recommend you read the book. More books are coming. We're going to talk about friends and character development and family and the superpowers, which I talk about like speech. The last book is called The Noble Way, and I don't know what it's going to be called when it's the final title, but it talks about family. Our perspective of family is nothing. It's really the communist perspective. You read the Communist Manifesto, like what we have today in our country is the communist view of family. And we see our kids as an individual, and they need to have their own friends and their own life and their own fashion. And they did that on purpose. And I don't want to get into all of it. That'll be an enemies. But they did that on purpose. They've separated the youth from their parents. So the youth has no connection to their parents. They look at their parents as kind of weirdos. They want different careers than their parents. They want to dress different than their parents. Some of that's okay, and some of it's not. Some of it is by design. I'm not getting into that, but that's coming. How to reestablish a strong family. And I'm not talking about, you personally, your family. I'm talking about generationally. A family that extends past your immediate family, but generational. I live on a farm that is my grandfather's, and that property was his, I think it was his grandfather, or it was his great uncles or something like that. But it's been, there's that kind of like that generational connection that we have, and I'm passing to my kids. Where most parent kids, they grow up, they're 18, they're free agents, they go off, you never see them again, or they come at holidays, and they've lost that connection. And that's not how family used to be. And it wasn't how my family was growing up, or it was how my family was growing up, but it's not how my kids' family is right now. We have I feel like it's great, and I'll explain that later. I think that's all I want to say on toys. I hope, does that answer your question, kinda? There's much more I'll say. That book is coming. There's been a lot of stress lately. I do invest. I have real estate, some real estate, not a ton and stuff, but I do invest stuff like that. And you can see that there's a meltdown, an economic meltdown. So this stuff I do, it's my passion. I love it. It's not my living, but mostly, I've invested my money and stuff like that. And there's like a total meltdown. You're locked at home, and I love oil. I talked about that before. I've traded in oil for a long time, and if you saw, I hope you are watching the news. I hope you've showed your kids this. Oil went negative. So, I mean, it's crazy times. So I haven't been as focused on it, but this is my passion. And I've written it. I feel like I make a better case in this. So if you're a new member, just read the book. I make a better case in it. It's super cheap on Amazon. If you can't afford the book, I'll just send it to you. It's really that important to me that you just read it. If you can buy the book, that money just goes right back into Blue Manor Education. And it enables me to keep producing this stuff for you guys, and a lot of good stuff's on the way. The last thing I want to talk about, another question, I said I would address it tonight. Hopefully it's not too long-winded. This is Master Talks. Okay, somebody asked, where are the Master Talks that I mentioned? Okay, Master Talks are on Blue Manor Academy. If you're a new member and you just kind of joined this, you probably have read this book, and that's why you're here, or you're interested in reading this book, and that's why you're here. Most people don't even know about this book. I read it 5 years ago. It's amazing. But this one is the one that everybody loves. So most people don't know that I'm also the president of a company called Blue Manor Academy. There's no election. I'm the president because I'm also the founder, and my wife was like, you can be the president. It sounds pretty cool. But we have a site called Blue Manor Academy. We teach classes on there. The Master Talks are my recorded classes. There's not a ton of them right now, but the Master Talks are going to be on subjects of greatness, which is going to come out in the Noble Way. They are on Blue Manor Academy's website. There's 2 websites. One is Blue Manor Education. That's where we sell most of the print books and stuff. I'm also an author and illustrator of children's books. This is Dino Hunt. Dino Hunt's raging on Amazon. Super excited. This is the first time I had something go viral. Not like Kim Kardashian viral, but Britain viral on Amazon. So that was exciting. But that stuff is on Blue Manor Academy, which is the subscription site. Recently, we raised the price to $9.99 for the subscription. Not to gouge you or make a ton of money, but because we want to take that extra $3 and we're going to build a site your kids deserve, that they need, and that this movement deserves and needs. So it's just the extra $3. If somebody was so poverty stricken and they wanted to do Blue Manor, but they just couldn't afford it, I'll give you a free account. That's not really what it's about, but your dues go 100%. I get no salary from Blue Manor Academy. I get no money. I do pay an editor and stuff. That's it. And we don't make enough to pay, to cover her salary. So most of it, I just cover it out of my own pocket. But that's what those funds are for. So Blue Manor Academy is where the Master Talks are. Now, Master Talks are great. I have some up there. There's not enough. I started doing them, and I produce them like this. And I'm looking out there in the world, and there's all these studios. Like Bill Gates funded this guy. Oh, gosh, what is it? What's the site that Bill Gates funded, the education site? Does anybody know? It's common. It's free. I think it's on YouTube. It was some Khan Academy. Okay. So those guys are getting so much funding from these billionaires, and they have an agenda, and it's not a great education. That's my opinion. They teach some cool stuff, though, but it's not our focus. But I can't compete with that quality of video. And so for a while, I was kind of like, oh, I need to just cut the Master Talks until I can really do this great show and deliver the content in a way that everybody's going to be, oh, wowed. It looks great. And then I started thinking about, like, you know what? I'm just going to get back to recording the videos. You know me, you know that it's quality content, even though it's not all the flash and the production value. We don't have Bill Gates rolling us. I do the videos myself. I teach them. Maybe I ramble sometimes. I think kids like them. My kids like them. They love when I teach Sunday school and stuff. I don't do any crafts, nothing, but it's just interesting maybe, hopefully. And but mostly it's important because the master talks are going to cover stuff that nobody else does. So everybody needs to learn how to read. We have a phonics curriculum on Blue Manor Academy. We have a great curriculum, math, all stuff. That's not going to make your kid great. If your kid can read, that's cool. Everybody can pretty much read, if we're honest. And it's not going to make your kid great. It's not going to help them rise to the top and be a world leader or anything like that. So we are raising kids for greatness, and that requires a different focus. The public school system, their focus is on getting your kids into college and a career. That's all their focus. That's horrible. Your kids need a lot more education than that. The goal is not to get into college and get a good job. Like that's easy. So our focus is on raising children for greatness. We say that there are 4 subjects or goals, we should say. Faith. Our kids have to have a strong faith. That's my most important thing. Faith, family. Family is so important. Next to your faith, your family is everything. It's your happiness. Who cares how much money you make if you don't have a good relationship with your wife? That's miserable. Our kids will be miserable if they can't figure out how to get along with their family. If they get divorced. If I grew up, I didn't even see my dad. My parents divorced. I saw him a few weeks out of the summer and stuff. Horrible. That's not even if you get help and you get divorced, like that's not what we want for our kids, is it? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that's not what we want for our kids. So faith, family, those are important things that nobody's teaching kids. Faith in a time when there's devastation. Finances, I call it finances, so it's an F, faith, family, finances, and fitness. But when I say fitness, I mean wealth. We want our kids to be wealthy. That was actually my topic tonight. I was going to talk about the importance of wealth. Christians have, I'm not going to get into the wealth tonight, but I'll say that wealth is important. It's like a superpower, just like speech. It's very important. I don't want my kids to drive fancy Lamborghinis and be rich and flashy. I want them to have wealth so that they have freedom to live the life that they want to live. This is my passion. I loved writing this book and illustrating this book, Dino Hunt. I loved writing this book for you guys, and for my kids, by the way, and for myself, to just organize myself and my philosophy. This is what I love doing. I couldn't have done that if I hadn't created enough wealth to live off. We don't live in a mansion. We don't. I live in my grandpa's farmhouse when he couldn't keep the farm last year. He's 82. He was still working on a farm and working full-time job. And there was a huge winter. And anyway, I'd always knew that I wanted this property. It's not fancy, but it's meaningful. If I hadn't had that, I couldn't have moved out here. There's not enough land to farm, and I don't know how to do that. And but now I can raise my kids in a way that I want. I want my kids to have that freedom. I don't want my boy to spend all day in a cubicle and he comes home and he barely sees his kid. I want them to have freedom. And I'm not insulting you if you're doing that. I did that for a long time. I had to work. I was in the military. I hardly saw my daughter when I was in that time. And then I worked all day, and my kids were almost in bed when I got home at night. And I was like, I did what I had to do to pay the bills at the time, but that's not what I wanted for myself. And now I'm free. I'm like, it's definitely not what I want for my kids. So wealth is important. And now I'm getting into my lecture on it. I'm not going to do that, but that's a subject. Faith, family, finances, fitness, and health. Obviously health is important. Some of the other, so that's our goals. Like that's what we're focused on. Our goals is we want you to have healthy kids. We want you to have wealthy kids. We want you kids to have a strong family. A very strong family. And we want your kids to have a very strong faith. That is our goals. Now, we have subjects of greatness, and that's what we talk about in the Master Talks. Master Talks is not phonic. It's not gym class or whatever. It's not that. These are the great subjects that you master, powerful subjects in Master Talks. There's not a ton there yet, but I'm going to add more content soon. What are the great subjects? Speech, communication. That is a superpower. And I've explained that in other videos. I won't get into it again. Superpower. Like you take the greatest warrior in the world, he's weak. He's so weak, especially in this age of guns. I don't care if you're black belt in jiu-jitsu, karate, you're weak. I've doing jiu-jitsu my whole life. I told my boy, I could beat most people one-on-one because I've been training for a long time. And I was like, and he knows that, or even our black belt, in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is submission wrestling. And I was like, you take that black belt, how many people you think he could beat in a fight? If he had to, if it came down to it, how many people could he beat in a fight, Colton? He's like, I don't know, like 2 or 3. It's like, I don't know how many either, but probably about 2 to 3 to 4 men. I doubt that, maybe. I don't know. But the point is there's billions of people on this planet. Our individual strength is very weak. But through our wealth. We can hire people and create a movement through wealth and through speech by inspiring people, create a movement. So that's a powerful subject, and that's something you master. It's not a class you take once. That's what master talks are. I'm going to start, I don't care, your kid could start watching at 4, 5, 6 years old. I'm going to make him a master orator. That's my goal. Wealth. We already have some wealth talks on there, money talks. I want your 5-year-old to know, I want your 5-year-old to understand, or 6 or whatever. My boy watched it at 7 years old. He understands market. He understands inflation. He understands all of that stuff, okay? Just from the master talks. That's what we're doing. Family. I'm going to talk about the structure of family. That'll be coming. I want to talk about art, the principles of art. Art is powerful. I don't mean, I actually do the covers of these, okay? Design them. That's graphic design, and I do the illustrations. I'm not just talking about that. Eventually, I want to teach the principles of art. The principles of art are powerful. It's how you live your life, present yourself through contrast, and just I mean, art is really powerful. It impacts people in powerful ways. So that'll be one of the master talks. Another one is leadership. Leadership is not a class. You take these classes in college and they're garbage. I'm talking real leadership. When I was in the military, for those of you who don't know, I was in the military for a while as a sergeant in the Air Force, and then went to the Army, sergeant for there for a while, and then I tried out for the Green Berets, Special Forces. I actually got selected. There's a cool video I'll show you someday. So went through the 2 weeks of hell, got selected, went through about a year and a half of training, jump school and all that, and then I got a knee injury. So I'm not a Green Beret. My cousin made it, but I didn't. But I'm not a Green Beret. But I went through some cool training. I went through combat leadership training. And I'm telling you, leadership is it's not something you learn in a textbook. There are principles, fundamental principles. It's tied to your character. There's an art to it. And I want to share that to your kids at 6, 7 years old so they can master the art of leadership. Because whether they're a mother or a father or the president or whatever, president of the United States, right? Leadership applies to everything. So that's a powerful skill I want your kids to have. So these are just some of the things that will be in Master Talks. These are going to be the things you can't get from books, and it's going to be me directly teaching your kids these principles. It's stuff I teach to my kids, and it'll be powerful. It's what the other kids aren't getting. I'm telling you, I took public speaking in college. They're not masters. You can't master the art of public speaking in giving like 2 5-minute speeches, and most of it was you just did it. You didn't have to be a great orator, but you learn gesture, you learn all those powerful things that it's like a martial art. You have to train in it and master it, and it applies to everything in life, no matter what you do. Even a mother talking to your kids, the ability to communicate powerfully is powerful. So it'll make you a better mother, a better father, a better businessman. That's powerful. So anyway, I mean, those are some things that are going to be in the Master Talks. It's not all there yet. Soon I will be filming more, and I just want you to know on the quality. It's not going to be as flashy as Khan Academy or some of the, ABC Mouse and stuff like that. I don't have the funding. I can't hire all the people, but it'll be genuine. It'll be me talking, and it'll be sharing principles that they don't share. Your kids can't get anywhere else. So it'll be powerful, and you just have to trust that. You watch them yourself. You'll learn. I've learned tons. I'll treat your kids like adults. Like, I'm not going to baby them. I'm going to treat... I'm not saying like it's going to be R-rated or something, but I just mean I respect your kids. I think your kid's brain is no different than yours. I don't believe in that underdeveloped stuff. I honestly don't. I think at 7 years old, my kid has some maturity that I don't, my 7-year-old boy, and he understands concepts of leadership. There's no reason he can't start learning that, and he loves to learn it. And they come up with things that they're talking about the economy and stuff in ways I'm like, wow, you notice that? Or such insights at such a young age that we don't have to wait. You teach it to him now, and then that's going to be so powerful. Who could compete with it? I'll leave you with this. There's a 2-tiered education system in this country. Most common people, all the people who believe in the toys and the Disneyland, just all that garbage is just pumped into them from Toys R Us and all that nonsense. That philosophy is setting your kids up for a miserable life. And when I mean miserable, I mean they're not going to have a deep faith. They're going to graduate, and a lot of them are going to walk away from their faith. They're not going to know how to make a marriage work. That's just the reality. They're not going to be prepared for their careers. They're going to become in debt because they don't know how to, when they enter the world, they don't know how to manage their money and stuff like that. That is miserable. But there are people, the elites, you could call them that, and they're sending their kids to elite prep schools, and their kids are preparing for life like I'm going to try to prepare your kids for life. And there's no reason that homeschool parents can't duplicate that, and your kids can't go toe-to-toe with them. And we need kids with our values to be able to go toe-to-toe with these people who are running the world. So, and I'll talk about that more in the last book, The Enemy, but it's a big deal. Like, things aren't going bad. It's bad. It's astronomical, and we have no champions in our camp, none. So we're gonna have to raise them, and that's part of our mission, and that's coming later. We'll talk about that. But I want to make your kids superheroes in the real world. I want to make them like Julius Caesar, not in a horrible way. I want to make them like Jesus or Saint Peter or. That's actually what I tell my kids. Like, my mission is to make you a saint. That's the best thing that could ever happen to me. I want you to be, and I say a saint in the sense that I want you to be a champion of the church. If you're a businessman, I want you to be a saint. If you're, that's why I love the concept of saints. You have philosopher saints, you have Mother Teresa saints, you have Saint George. He's a warrior. That guy is so awesome. We think of him with Saint George and the Dragon, which I don't know what. That's a fun story. But that guy was actually, I mean, he is a superhero. I mean, what he endured during the Diocletian persecution and stuff. So you have soldier saints, you have businessmen saints, you have priests and preacher saints. You have people who went to South America, missionary saints, and they're martyred for their faith. And I don't want our kids to be martyred for their faith, but I want them to be able. I want them to have that deepness of faith and character that they could stand before anybody and compete at the highest level. And like, and that's why I say, be a champion for Christ and his kingdom. That's like what we really want. Using their wealth, using their resources, using their power of speech to turn back this tide, because the game, it's not like it's getting bad. We're underwater. We're drowning. It's almost over. We have to enter the fight very quickly. And I didn't understand that until I started researching and writing a few years ago, but it's a serious thing. So I'm taking it serious. If you give me access to your kids through the site, I'm going to make them champions. That's my whole mission. I want to make them champions. I don't want them to go out there and just have a normal life. Like, we are raising kids for greatness. It's time to strike back. So, all right, totally off topic. I hope you guys enjoy these things. Thank you guys for supporting me through the site. We're going to get the Master Talks on there. We are working. We have people developing curriculum. A person. I'm not going to pretend like we're a huge thing. But I have a girl, she's writing a curriculum, and I'm helping her develop it. It's on, it's going to be Latin. Latin's super powerful. I'll talk about why that's important later. And the Greek roots and stuff like that. The kids should be learning when they're in preschool as quickly as possible. Not in high school or college. But so we are developing it. Even if you don't see daily changes on the site, just know, like, we have like 6 or 7 books we're working on right now. And it's coming. So, all right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming. If you guys have any questions, drop them below. Questions will always be the priority. It was Wednesday. I saw the question. I thought, that's what I'll talk about. Like, you are the priority. So thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.